What up, peeps? Look, man, you got myself, you got Chris with a K. He's on time today. He was actually here about 5 minutes early. We were just talking about some other shit in the background. We got Ty, he's on today. Jay is out today, and so is Steven. Fellas, what's going on, man?
Man,
Same old,
What?
same old.
I'm really excited. I wanted to do this last week because I've been dying to do one thing, and
What's
that's to ask Ty, what did you think about Ole Miss's spring game or the lack thereof? But we'll get to that soon. I had to talk to Ty. I didn't want to
Bro, they
call
got
him
a
and get his
glizzy
reaction.
competition going on. I have no idea what the hell was happening out there.
It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting. Hey, folks, there's some people in here. Like, comment, and subscribe to this, man. You know the motto, man. Wipe your feet before you come in the house, man. Like the video, subscribe, share it with all your best friends, man. I cannot wait till football season gets here. About 15 days or so, guys. I'm ready, man. Spring game, spring game, spring game. But Chris, how was the spring game at OU, man?
Man, I thought the spring game was actually really good. I thought it let us know some things. Excuse me. I think the defensive line is better than advertised, and I think it's going to be upgraded tremendously if you can pull Williams, right? But getting Lole was a big pickup over the weekend as well. I think Jackson Arnold looks really crisp. He looks great. Couldn't really get a good feel for everybody out there simply because offensive line does have some issues. Contrary to your belief, it does have some issues, not crazy issues. It's just a part of one, getting guys healthy, two, getting guys integrated into the system and playing for beat and bow. But the biggest thing is, I mean, we got Hickman as well, so that's going to be a great addition at center as well for us going into the season if he can really get to it. But I would say skill position wise is probably the best that we've looked in a while. It's going to be a problem, Nick, and you already know, especially coming from last year, with the pass attack that you guys had with the guys that you guys had. But damn, you saw what Burks was able to do in that spring game, but you know what Burks is, what he's just advertised. But putting Nick Anderson out there, if Andrell Anthony can get back to form, he's already out there. No brace, no crutches, no none of that. Once Farouk heals from the fracture, you know what you're going to get from him. Gibson looks like he stepped it up. Petaway is going to see the field. You're going to at some point, Brendan Thompson is going to be on. You're going to have so much speed and such variety out there, and you're going to be physical too. I think tight end is another position that we're still trying to mesh out simply because Bauer Sharp is going to be the guy, but can Caden Helms actually be healthy this year? And will Jake Roberts be able to heal up in time to get back as well? So you got some young guys coming there. Defensively, I would say this is the best our defense has looked in a while. Secondary, no, not worried at all. We have freshmen out there. I'm sure that you guys can say the same. Boganowski, guys like that. Some of the freshmen back there, Jalen Hardy, they don't look like freshmen. They don't look like freshmen. They don't play like freshmen. But at the same time, man, you're really excited with the progression some of these guys have taken, especially like Robert Spears Jennings, who I think is going to be a starter. I think he's actually going to start over Bowen. That's my hot take.
Say it again.
I think he's going to start over Bowen, not
Oh,
Bowen. I
my
think,
bad.
yeah, Billy's a staple, but
I was
I
like, what you
think that's
talking about?
that's a spot I would like to see who's going to start. But regardless, you're going to see a lot of heavy dose of Peyton Bowen. I'll tell you somebody who else I like, short as hell, but Eli Bowen is Eli Bowen is real, and they had him at corner playing against 6'6" Ivan Carrion. So I think that we have some really good young talent that honestly could start day one for a lot of programs. But I really like the mix up that we have. I think that some of the guys that you want to depend on this year, like a David Stone, you've heard a lot about Jaden Jackson really tearing it up in spring camp. But David Stone, I think that he's going to be it's a process, right? And I think he's going to be great. And he made some great plays, but he also looked like a freshman at times. But he's still learning how to play this game, acclimate himself to this system, and in three, playing with all that weight on him now that he's gotten up to that size. But man, I'll be honest with you. Overall, I felt really good leaving today. I felt really good leaving today, and I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna stick by what I said, and I know people in the chat are gonna go crazy and all the rest of this stuff, but I think 10 wins is on the table for this team. If you don't fix these special teams, meaning that the kicking game and the punt game, if those are not superb by the time the season starts, and then if you have some offensive line woes, especially on the edge and the interior, you're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine in the interior. But if you don't fix some of your edge issues, meaning that your tackles and your kicking game, that's what could kind of separate you from being in that pack of like a 10-win team to being pretty much a 7 to 8 ball club, 9 games at max. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I think that you're good enough to walk into the SEC and do what you need to do because, I mean, when you're returning that much production on defense, and we know year 3 is the year for Brent Venables' defenses to really take a jump, and then now I think Jackson Arnold's really poised to really have a huge season. I think he's going to show a lot of people that, hey, that Alamo Bowl was just him knocking off rust and that freshman lore, right? But outside of that, man, I felt really good about the spring game leaving there.
Hey, Chris, so tell me about this. So I watched about the first 20 minutes of it. I saw, I think, the first 3 drives, with Jackson in it. The offensive line. So
Yeah.
tell me about the line, man. I saw the first 3 drives, probably about 3 or 4 sacks in those first 3 drives, man.
Yeah, it was the tackles, man. I mean, I think on like I said in the interior, they were holding their own, and you saw the running backs were able to really establish themselves. I think you have something there with um, that whole tandem of Caleb Hicks. I think he's going to get ticked this year. Sawchuck is Sawchuck. I think he can take it to another level, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to. I don't know if we're ever going to see him just take off like we all hoped that he would. But offensive line wise, I would say is really kind of like the tackles. I think that Spencer Brown from Michigan State wasn't as advertised when he got here. I think that the Sexton is still kind of dealing with some injuries and
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. So, me and Ty, I think Ty made a comment about it. With him being the SEC is going to get eaten up, and I mean, yeah, there were some things that
No,
that
I was
caused
talking about
something.
71. I asked you if he was to get playing time because I said edges everywhere in the nation will throw parties.
Yeah, yeah, no, but I mean, but Sexton played last year, and they were really excited about him, and he had some really, really. He put together some good games and some good clips in other games as well. But we have a mix of, I guess you can say, a little bit of I would say veterans because you have, you went out there in the portal, and then also with the guys that you went and got in the this recruiting cycle, you're really deep, man. I think you're talented. This is one of the most talented rooms that Beaton Bow has had since being here at Oklahoma. The problem is that you got to get these guys acclimated to what you're trying to do, and we all know sometimes it's hard to play for Beaton Bow because he demands so much.
Yeah. You know what, man? One thing I will say, y'all's defense was stout. First and second team defense was stout. Very stout. Linebackers were really good. Line was really good too as well, man. I mean, just the entire defense as a whole, man. But
Yeah,
honestly, that's expected.
yeah.
You got BV. BV is a defensive genius, man. So I expect that from you guys. First year was just a bad year, transition year. But you guys' defense was pretty good last year. This year, I think it just takes leaps and bounds,
It,
man.
it was a refusal on the part of BV to actually try to change everything. So kind of like what I mean, we got the man on here to say it himself, but he and Sark, you can't really blame them for inheriting the sins of the father. And I think a lot of OU fans, if you really look in the mirror, you're just saying that hey, we overestimated the talent level that was here in the 2022 season. We really got caught up in all the emotions of Raleigh leaving and all the rest of this stuff. But like I said, man, I think things will come together by fall, and I think that you'll be fine. And I think, especially on the offensive line, when you get Eddie Pierre Lewis, guys like that on campus too, I think you're going to see kind of a shuffle as well. But like I said, interior you're fine on the offensive
Just the
line.
tackles.
But the thing that and I think it was Coop. Me and Jay and Coop did a pod together after the spring game, a little recap. And like I told them, I said, hey, look, my biggest problem with the offensive line, this is me trying to be as blunt as possible, was simply this: coming into these last couple of seasons, we've seen there are strong parts of this offensive line, but we haven't seen that full unit be good, be dominant since Collar and Baker were here, and that's an issue. Now it seems that everything is going to shift from the tackle spots, which have been really good for us lately, to the interior, which has been bad for us lately. But I think that you're upgrading at your tackle and at your guard and at your center position tremendously this year. But it's the tackles for me. We just have to figure that out. But I think that's going to get figured out. I trust Beatonbow, and I think by the time that we kick this thing off, I think it's going to be rocking and rolling.
Hey,
Now,
we gotta.
Quentin, thank you for the $2, my man. But I gotta say this. He says another year of Chris crying and hating. Quentin, that's one of those where it's almost like that Spider-Man meme of the two spy. This man came over whenever Luke Metz committed, Nino, and
Yeah,
was like, "I'm gonna bookmark all," because you know how I do when a kid
yeah,
commits. I'm like, "Oh, this is a great win."
yeah.
This man comes over and says, "I'm going to bookmark all these for these happy Bama fans when y'all start losing." And I'm like, "What kind of weird hating is that?"
Yeah.
So,
That $2 hating.
Quentin, that's that Spider-Man meme pointing, because that was some weird hating.
That's funny. Hey man, this so this comment here says Jackson Arnold versus Arch Manning. We'll go crazy 3 years from
Yeah.
now. I don't see that happening. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I think in 2 years Arch starts, and I don't think he stays more than 1 year. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
He was
I,
sensational.
I you know, yeah. I honestly, if he plays the way that everybody thinks he's gonna play and the way that he played, um, yeah, I think Arch is going to be a one and done in college. Now, maybe he stays for two,
Mhm.
just because he doesn't need the money. And he comes from a pretty rich family, and maybe he wants to be a college kid for as long as possible. Peyton wanted to do it, right? Peyton stayed in for as long as possible. Eli stayed in 5 years, right? So that family's just wired just a little bit different. So like maybe he stays, but yeah, man, he looks sensational. But look, I won't talk about Texas now. I won't talk about Texas. I'll let Chris have his moment. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no! Look, I'm just saying, man, Nick. I think we're gonna be pretty damn good, and I trust Joe John and I trust Latrell as well.
Yeah.
Watching a lot of film on Latrell's offense, some breakdowns and different things like that, man. I think people are gonna be surprised, and the use of the tight ends as well. And I think we have willing blockers this year, so I think you're gonna be in heavy personnel sometimes, or a lot of times, honestly. And like I keep telling people, watch out for that split bluff zone.
Split
That
bluff zone. Yeah.
that play is going to be crazy because Jackson Arnold is athletic, and obviously if Hawkins were to get in the game, that's something that he would be right up his alley. But no, I mean I think people are underestimating. In the comments to Texas fans right now, I think people are underestimating how talented this team is. If Jackson Arnold is given time with that receiving core,
But that's the problem. It's the
especially
timepiece. It's the
yeah,
timepiece with those
but
tackles.
I mean, hey, look, if it was a fifth, we all get be drunk. But I'm just saying, which I think is going to be shored up. But I'm just saying, look, it's going to be hard to isolate and try to double team and do all this stuff. If you go over there and try to give Burks all this attention, and you got Gibson running down the field, you got Nick Anderson, you got Andrell Anthony, Farouk, guys like that. This isn't going to be just a 3-4 man show like it was with Levy sticking with his guys. This is going to be different. It's going to be hard to really pay attention to one guy. You're going to be on the island by yourself a whole bunch. And if you try to drop back and go and disguise stuff and go into zone, okay, that's cool, but you better make sure that linebacker or that safety that's coming up, and or whoever's your spy on Arnold is going to be there, because if
Because
he
he can
gets
run. He can run.
so I mean,
He can
I,
run. That's one thing I
I
will give
just
him. He can
say,
run.
man. I mean, and plus, like I said, look, it's spring, man. It's spring ball. Like every team right now still has a lot of stuff
Yeah. Every
to
team.
get fixed. But man, I would say this may be the year. This may be the year that you see two things happen. First off, that we get excellent linebacker play, and I mean not just from Stutzman. I mean from the Lewis Carters of the world. You're going to see the son McCullough be over there. You're
But
going to
Kip.
see Kip Lewis. Kobe McKenzie, those guys are ready to turn it up. But also, I think Cheetah is going to be is hellacious for people this year. I think it is because you if you're going to leave Dolby over there, you're going to put him in a natural position because that's how he played coming out of NEO to JUCO in Oklahoma. Then also Peyton Bowen, he's going to be playing some of that too. And there's going to be times where you can have McCullough or you can have Samuel. Samuel Asigo is going to turn a lot of heads this year. So I'm really confident in this defense simply because a lot of younger guys got to sit back, get that seasoning, but some of them actually play, whether it was special teams or getting snaps, different things like that. But I think those young guys are coming and we gotten better. I mean, seeing guys like Harrington have to go to the portal, that was a big sign for me, letting me know a lot about some of the guys that have stepped up and really progressed, like BV and all of them wanted them to.
Chris, I do got one question for you though. With Texas going to the SEC, OU going to the SEC, first year in the SEC, do you think it's going to be a problem for Jackson Arnold? Just a difference in the competition level.
No, I don't. I mean, I think that they're like I said. I mean, when you look at it, if you're getting, I mean, everybody can talk about the tackles and all the rest of that stuff right now, but literally, it's still April. And the thing is that for the most part of spring camp, you've heard nothing but good reviews about the offensive line. It's just that guys got dinged up, and you haven't really seen them at full health. So, with that being said, people are still caught up on the interceptions. Some of those interceptions, that one was just a hell of a play. The other one, you got two fumbles. Basically, we saw him grow up in that game to where they were down 14-0, then went up 24-14, and then basically choked the game away down the stretch. Biggest thing that people have to realize is that you're going to have a solid run game. You're not going to go in there with some bipolar crazy game plan for the run game. You're going to have a decent run game. Then Latrell is not going to be going east and west, allow you to sleep and then try to throw it over your head. He's going to force the ball down the field. He's a north and south guy. When you watch his offense, he's north and south. Then, like I said, if you want to come out there and try to pay all this attention to Burke and try to shadow him and bracket him and all the rest of that stuff, that's perfectly fine. You're going to have people on the other side running down the field because you got speed and you got size out there. It's going to be hard to stop them. So I just don't know how you're going to sit there and say Jackson Arnold isn't set up for success this year.
It's going to be interesting, man, because maybe y'all's tackles position was like our line last year. We were getting blasted all off season. Everybody was like, what's wrong with our guards? What's wrong with our center? But people didn't realize that Sweat and Murphy were probably going to be the two best defensive tackles as a tandem in the country. It's just because we didn't see it yet, right? So we had, Coburn there and those guys actually went up to the league and stuff like that. And so when Sweat and Murphy come in, we saw glimpses of it and like flashes, but we didn't know that they were going to be that damn good last year. So our guards actually looked really good when they didn't play against our tackles, right? And so, is that the case you think with you guys' defensive line?
Yeah, I think our defensive line is way better. I mean, I think you got guys that are actually healthy now. R. Mason Thomas, and look, you got R. Mason Thomas. You went out there and got the Woolard kid who looks really good. You got savvy vets in there like Trace Ford. You're going to see PJ Adebarare. He's starting to come along. It's just you got to get him a little bit more polished. That light bulb has to go off. Then you're going to see Taylor Wine this year and in some capacity as well. So a lot of your younger guys that were hella talented and hella talented coming out of high school, those guys are stepping up as well. It kind of tells you two things. Like, okay, on this side of the coin, maybe our offensive line isn't that great if they're getting beat by these freshmen. But it also, on the other side, you also say, damn, well, if my 5-star freshman is coming in here and is already turning some heads, then I think we did pretty well recruiting this cycle, right? So, I mean, the thing is that I think you got really good talent, and you got guys that know that system as well. That's coming up, and I think you have a chance to get better if one more of these D tackles ends up coming to you.
Well, I think two things can be true at once, right? Like, I think y'all did great work on getting some defensive front guys. But
Uh-huh.
the only thing that I would say that differentiates, Nino, what your example was from Oklahoma,
Yeah,
Oklahoma's replacing basically the entire offensive line.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So
That's true.
it's not like, you were looking at an offensive line that was super principled, super experienced together going up against a Sweat and Murphy and struggling. This is a new offensive line. Now, I'm not saying that is going to automatically negate any success for Oklahoma. We know what Bill Bedenbaugh, we know what kind of coach he is, right? Um, Bishop says 7-300 power line. Listen, I'll say this right here as an Alabama fan. We heard all last season how these guys were so big. They were bigger than the average NFL offensive line. And damn it, when they went out on the field, they looked like it.
They were slower. Yeah,
They were slow
Mhm.
and they got smoked. And now you look, half the offensive line's lost like 20 pounds. I don't know if y'all saw the picture of Proctor at A-Day. He's lost 25 pounds.
Oh yeah, what's he down to? About
Yeah.
340 now.
I think he's pushing like 335 right
Well, that's
now.
good, man. That's good. I want to see him succeed.
I do too. I
I
do too.
do.
Our offensive line's a huge question. So Chris, it's funny because we're kind of in the same boat where it's not like Alabama's replacing a bunch of offensive line. But guys, do you want to know something crazy? If I told you that a team had the number 129 offensive line and sacks allowed, would you think that they took the national champions to overtime?
Yeah.
That's the truth. Alabama was number 129 in the nation in sacks allowed and took Michigan to overtime.
Mhm.
Well,
Like,
shit. Yeah, I mean, and
can't continue.
yeah,
Can't
man.
continue.
Yeah, man. Won the SEC too as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. Hey, but Chris, it's a good comment here. He said that what does he say? He says, what is you just got to prove yada yada, understand the hate. Texas gets all the hype. Okay, we get it. You cannot be knocked for a strength of schedule this year. That is true. And one thing that look, man, I want to bring this up. Jackson Arnold, he's going to have his freshman moments. He's a redshirt freshman. He's going to have those freshman moments, right? We understand it, and he's going to have it. His first true test is week 4. You got Tennessee, and then
Yeah.
Auburn, and then after Auburn, you got Texas.
And Tennessee's going to be a great test because if
that's
your
at
question
Tennessee, right?
not only
No,
that, but if
is that
Okay,
OU?
got you.
Is that Norman?
even then, if your question is tackles, right? That's one of the reasons I hate that our Tennessee game's always so late in the season. I really
Yeah.
kind of wish we had Tennessee early because I have a lot of questions about Alabama's tackles, right? Like that's my biggest. And I know someone said they saw James Brockermeyer in the portal. Yeah, that took me by surprise a bit. But remember, Alabama got in Parker Brailsford, who was the second highest graded center in the nation this past year as a freshman.
Yeah.
He came with DeBoer from Washington. And listen, he's got to adjust to the SEC, but I feel better about Alabama's center position this year than last year. You look at that national championship or the playoff game. There were like 9 snaps at Jalen Milroe's ankles. So I feel better about the center this year. But the reason why I bring up Tennessee is because their pass rush on the exterior is really good. And so I love that y'all get them early because that's going to be a great building game for the rest of the season for your young offensive line. And you have Bedenbaugh. That's why it's like, okay, I can wonder what Oklahoma's offensive line is going to look like, but you have one of the 3 best offensive line coaches in the nation who gets it right all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And so it's just a matter of when, not if, right? Like whether it's game 1, 2, because we know these things can take a few games to gel, even for experienced offensive lines. But Bedenbaugh's Bedenbaugh, man. Like you just know he's going to get it right.
But I would say this right here is that it's going to be an interesting game because Tennessee has similar issues that OU has as well. Obviously, you've seen the money they put out, Lance Hurd and all the rest of them for tackles themselves. And then one thing that I think is not going to be there this year for them, and I know that you guys are going to say the kid can run and this and that, but I'm not necessarily sure what's sitting behind him. I'm talking about Nico. I don't think you can run at people or try to run him like you would.
Even Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, that's the same thing I said about Jackson, though. Yeah, Jackson likes to run too.
We got Casey Thompson. You know what I'm saying?
You got Casey Thompson.
I'm playing with you.
Okay, we're gonna talk. Okay,
we got.
That's where we going.
We got Casey.
That's where we going.
But I'm saying they got similar issues. But I feel like the build Smitty, I believe in that whole hype and all the rest of that stuff.
That's my point right here.
Yeah.
When I didn't bring up like Jackson Arnold in terms of like, oh, well, it's an analogous situation where you're wondering who's behind him. I brought up Jackson Arnold in terms of like, if I'm going to trust, if you're telling me, Ty, Nico and Jackson Arnold, they're both going to be mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They're both going to take off. Which guy do you feel like is going to be able to, obviously knock on wood for both of these guys? I can't wait to see them both healthy.
It's gonna be a good game.
Well, they're going to be superstars, man. Two superstar. I would put more money on Jackson Arnold finishing a season healthy because that cat is built, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's got the build to be able to absorb some contact where Nico, I mean, we all said it. Chris,
Nico's skinny dude, man.
My favorite quarterback in that class was Nico, but I always said, like, he's the one quarterback that needs a year to redshirt, get in that strength and conditioning room, even if it was 2 years. Like, I think his upside is stupid high, but I also think he was the greenest in terms of like needing to adjust his body, needing to develop. So that Tennessee game is going to be fantastic.
I think the interesting thing for me, so you know, a couple of things that I've said before, and I'll say it again. First off, for OU, I think all 12 games, you basically have to make this a 3-game season. Each, you know, just go like that because you have a tough
schedule.
You got a tough schedule.
They do.
You got a tough schedule.
Second off, I think one thing that really gives me a lot of confidence with Latrell and Jackson is the fact that I think we're going to make that shift from, hey, we're going to run these 3 plays and we're going to run it down their throat. It doesn't matter if we're getting off the field in just 50 seconds or if we're taking 4 or 5 minutes in the game. And you saw Levy get better at that last year, but that was something that a lot of times just didn't make a lot of sense to OU fans out there, was the fact that you would have these really, really quick 3 and outs. You would have 3 and outs with 50 seconds, taking 50 seconds off the clock, and they're still, you know, it's a two possession game, but hell, you're giving them the ball back with good field position, all the rest of that stuff with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You get what I'm saying? And so you're giving them time to at least try to make things interesting.
Oh, but sooner. I have y'all doing better than 8.
Yeah, I got us doing better than that. But, and then the last thing I would say, like I said, I just think that I think Jackson's ready for the moment, and I think that teams are going to, on both sides of the ball. I think when you get to the SEC, that's the beauty of it. And Nick, you'll appreciate this comment too. Teams in the SEC are going to allow us to actually play straight up.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't wait for.
They're going to allow us to play straight up, and that means that we're not going to have, like, when we play Temple, Houston, and Tulane, you're going to see a lot of quick game and try to counter that those edges and all the rest of the stuff. You know that with the kid from UTSA, Colin Simmons, all those guys, Vasic, everybody. So you already know that that's coming in the non-con play. But when you get to the SEC, when guys are feeling,
it's going to be man on man. It's going to be talent
man
versus
on
talent.
man. So you can actually
talent versus talent. I can't.
Yes, you can actually get that. And so that goes back to my second point about the feel for the game. I think Latrell is going to have a better feel for the game to be able to say, okay, we can run tempo this time. We can do this on this possession. Now let's slow it down. Let's get methodical with this, and let's figure this out, and let's get him into a rhythm. But I think that I think those two things right there really help me. I think those two dynamics, that if they marry each other, that could really help not only the team overall, but Jackson individually. Because I think Jackson Arnold is going to be able to really key in on that and get loose. And like I said, man. A lot of the plays last year that would have really separated us from a bunch of teams, a la the underthrows, that's not happening this year.
Yeah,
Arnold's got a cannon.
Yeah,
he's hitting those in stride. He's hitting those in stride.
Man, it's going to be interesting. Y'all got a tough ass schedule, though. I mean, it's just man. Just
luckily, I think they get a lot of. It's a tough schedule, but I think that Oklahoma has the benefit of getting a lot of those games at home. If I'm not mistaken.
No, they don't. No. Auburn's at Auburn.
Yeah, but they have Tennessee at home. You don't have to play in Neyland. That's a hellacious stadium. You don't have to play in Bryant-Denny. That's a hellacious stadium.
No, but Ole Miss is at Ole Miss. Missouri at Missouri. LSU at LSU.
You do have. I thought
they got it.
LSU
they got it pretty
home.
tough, man.
Okay.
Are we really that worried about LSU this year?
I have a hot take about LSU.
Dude, okay, look here, guys.
Let's go ahead and move on from OU, man. I mean, hey, look, like I said, hey, look. Y'all can call it Kool-Aid. Y'all can call it what y'all want.
You're just telling the truth. You're telling what you're seeing.
I agree with a lot of what you say, man. Like, I have I have some questions about Oklahoma, but I
Yeah.
think Chris, Nick, y'all know me well enough to where like when you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I have questions," they're really meaning I have concerns.
Yeah.
But when I say I have questions, I don't mean I have concerns, right? Like I'll tell you if I have concerns. I don't have concerns for
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I have questions, and I think that's natural whenever you're rebuilding an offensive line, but I like having questions that have answers. Y'all have an answer in Bill Bedenbaugh, so it's
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
What's the conversation?
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I guess it's just not seeing that line gelled yet. And look, I understand it's early,
Yeah.
but usually with OU, you're just so used to seeing the line buttoned up pretty much all
The
year
last,
round. That's
the
that's the
last,
only thing.
this would be my last comment about them. The last time I seen a line like this was, especially in the spring game, was when
Yeah.
Jalen was the quarterback.
Yeah.
And I know those are
Two different styles.
two different styles, but you have
But
one common denominator. Bill Beatonbow was still there.
yeah,
True,
but
true.
crazy thing about it, those are two different styles of quarterbacks, but are they? Like Jalen ran his ass off.
I
Jackson
meant
can
like two
run.
coaching styles.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay,
was
okay,
just
okay,
kind of like
okay,
how you wanted
okay.
to do it.
Got you, got you,
But
got you.
but what I'm saying is that the common denominator was Beatonbow.
Yeah,
Beatonbow got you there. You even went to a playoff. You weren't
yeah,
obviously, I mean, well, yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
did
that
go to the.
LSU team was all
Yeah, I
time,
mean,
man.
you know
yeah,
what happened. You weren't
yeah.
SEC ready
And
at the
then
time, but you got what
SEC
you
teams
needed.
weren't ready for that LSU
yeah,
team, man. They were
Yeah,
all time.
yeah,
but then also, Jalen is a different animal in college too. I don't think he's probably one of the greatest leaders we've probably seen in this era of college football.
Easy.
You know what I'm saying? So those are high praises if you're going to put that on Jackson, but you know so there's a reason why Jalen is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now, right?
yeah.
And yeah, it's because he is that guy that has that those skills, right? But hey, man, I want to talk about Texas for a little bit, just a little
Before you
bit.
do, can I get into
Yeah,
my hot take with LSU?
go ahead, go
And
ahead,
I
go ahead.
won't take 2 minutes.
Oh no, man, take your time, take your time.
I think LSU, and I know this is probably going to come back to bite me,
Go ahead and
right?
say it. I already know what you're gonna say, Ty. I already know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
I think they're being overhyped right now. Like you lose Neighbors, you
Yep,
lose what is it, Thomas?
yep. You
Right?
lose
Like, and
Thomas.
you
You lose
still
the
have
Heisman Trophy winner.
you lose John Emery's out, and
Yep.
your defense was all time bad. And I get it. You've made hires on the defensive staff that I think are going to be conducive to success. But gentlemen, are you going to be able to do a massive turnaround year one? I mean, listen, Oklahoma has Jackson Arnold, and
Yep.
while he might be a new quarterback, I love the offensive pieces around him, Chris. Like, yes, we might have a conversation about the offensive line. There's not a conversation to be had about the wide receivers at Oklahoma, nor the running backs. I mean,
Yeah.
they are as good as you could want. And defensively, I do agree. I think y'all are going to be much, much better. Their defense, I still have principled concerns about. And I don't know that they're going to be. And I like Nuss. Like, both of you know that I like Nuss. But, like, the SEC this year, Milrose back,
Yeah.
Quinn's back,
Yep.
Beck is there,
Yep.
like Brady Cook over at Missouri.
Cook
So
still
like
cooking.
you got some quarterbacks in this league now that can take advantage of your defensive deficiencies, and I think they have them. So I think they'll be good, but I keep seeing people being like, "Oh, it's Georgia and then either Texas or LSU," and I'm like,
Look here, man. I've never
"Is
been the
it?"
biggest Nussmeyer fan. I know you are, Ty. I
I
know.
like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'm not saying I don't like him. It's just I don't know, man. It's I've seen him play and he's coming to games and he's looked good. I just got to see it for a full season. I
Fair.
don't know. Fair enough on that, but I think he'd be a good quarterback. It's just it's going to be hard to kind of follow up, a guy who just won a Heisman, and
And I don't know that he's transcendent. I think he's going to be good, but like, are you
yeah,
going to be Daniels? I don't think so.
hell no. And
Right? Like,
yeah, Daniels carried that team in his back with no defense. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? I mean, so that ought to tell you something, man. He was no kidding the best player in college football last
yeah,
year. You put him on a team that had some kind of defense with a pulse, and that team goes undefeated. And, it's he was that good.
yeah.
But yeah, Ty, I'm with you. And hey, Sooner Cowboy, good comment. They could literally have 4 or 5 losses by the time they play OU.
I
Yeah.
agree. Like, I I understand more the people who are like, oh, well, Texas could be number 2. And I'm like, okay, we can have that conversation, but I understand that far more than I understand LSU being propped up as either the second or third best team in the SEC. And I'm like, ah, they're going to be good. It's LSU, but are they going to be as scary as LSU usually is? I don't think so.
I don't think
And this
so
might
either.
come back to bite me, but it's out there now. What are you going to do?
No, Ty, I think they take a step back.
I
I
think
just
so.
don't see how your first round quarterback is going to be a top 5 pick this year. You're going to have a wide receiver that's going to be a top 4 or 5 pick this year too as well. You're going to have another wide receiver who's going to be in the first round as well. Even as bad as your defense was last year, you're going to have 2 defensive tackles that are going to get drafted this year. LSU is losing some key players, man. Can Nuss handle it? I don't
Campbell
know.
gone.
Oh, Campbell. Yeah, I mean, Campbell's another one, right? So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Is Brian Kelly the coach that we all, just kind of think he is? If he is, then maybe they bounce back and they have a 9-3 or a 10-2 season. And that would be, to me, extraordinary. Just kind of considering all the pieces that they, lost. But hey, man, I'm with you. I don't see it right now. I just don't see it.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. All right, I apologize. I didn't mean to derail the Texas talk. Please
No,
go
man,
ahead.
you're
Go
good.
ahead.
I mean, okay, Texas. I know. Hey, look, everybody wants to talk about Arch Manning, right? Arch Manning, yes, Arch had a hell of a game, 355 yards with 3 or 4 touchdowns, something like that, right? So he had a hell of a game. He looked outstanding. There was an opportunity where Sark was actually coming up to talk to him, and maybe kind of handle some plays, and Sark just kind of backed off and basically just said, "Let him do his thing," and he did his thing the entire game. So. But Sark is the quarterback whisperer. Even that third string guy looked really good. Trey Owens looked good. So I love our offensive line, man. Our line looks amazing. Defensive line is still what's worrying me. That's what's keeping me up at night right now is who is going to man the interior of that Texas defensive line. Now, they didn't look bad in the spring game, but I know how this is going to play out in the season if they don't get some backup there or have a good kind of rotation going on because losing Sweat and Brian Murphy is going to be a doozy, man. It just is what it is, you got Alfred Collins, you got Vernon Broughton, but you bring in 2 guys, from Arizona. So is Texas going to get Williams from TCU? I know that's going to be a big one between Texas and OU. That's going to be a huge battle, right? And so we'll see what happens with that. Secondary, that's the big elephant in the room right now, right? Texas secondary did not look good in that damn spring game. And then, you have Terrence
That was a
Brooks.
weakness last year.
That was a weakness last year. Texas was 115 for 117th in pass defense in the country last year. So that worries me. That really worries me, to be honest with you. But Terrence Brooks goes to the portal. Austin Jordan also goes to the portal as well also. I'm not worried about Manny Muhammad. I think he's going to be outstanding.
He's a beast. He's a monster.
He's going to be outstanding. I think the thing that could possibly save this secondary is when Terrence Brooks left. I think that's going to move Manny Muhammad over to the field side, which I think is going to be perfect for him. And if they move Barron over to cornerback instead of nickel, he can play the boundary because he's such a good defender in the run game. He's such a good defender, but I like Barron at the damn nickel because it gives him opportunity to sit back and see the play. And he's so good against the run. But if they move him to cornerback, and then you move a guy like Jalen Gilbo, who actually started, above Barron in his first year for like 2 or 3 games, you move him to nickel, who, he's been shining. And then you have some good safeties back there. I like Derek Williams. Look, I like Taft. Taft might be a walk-on who got a scholarship. Yes, I still like Taft. He had a good season last year, and I love the kid from Clemson too as well. Right? So, look,
Kuba.
yeah, man. Now, Ty, look, he could possibly move down to nickel, right?
He's very versatile.
He's very versatile. We have options, right? It's just that when you lose some of those guys, you're losing depth. And then if something happens to one of, Manny Muhammad or Barron or Gilbo or Williams or Taft, then who's going to come in behind these guys? A lot of these guys are young. They're true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. That's the only thing that kind of worries me about the secondary. But man, they got ate up last year. We got more team speed this year. Hopefully things work out better this year, but I got to see it to believe it. Those are, like Ty goes like this. He goes, we got questions, right? And look, I need questions and answers, right? When it comes to the secondary. I'm not worried about linebacker, Anthony Hill.
No,
Bendis,
Anthony Hill's a monster.
I'm not worried about edge, to be honest with you. I think we shored that up. Colin Simmons, Trey
Look good.
Moore, Ethan Burke, Vasic. Chris's favorite person on Texas is Vasic. He loves some Vasic, right? Vasic looked damn good in that spring game, right? He looked damn good. But my biggest things here is what's going to happen in that secondary because guys are running wide open, and what's going to
Nick,
happen on the interior. What's up, Chris?
Nick, if I see Taff out there on the field, if I see Taff out there on the
Go ahead.
field this year, if I see him on the field,
I'll
you
let you
best
talk about
believe I'm
animation.
calling you and I'm telling you that right there is that good you know what on the field.
Well,
We
nine
got
times
to
out of
keep that
10,
alive.
it's not going to be Taft. It's probably going to be Andrew Makuba.
Hey,
Okay.
if he out there on the field again, I'm feeling like, damn, we back in Houston all over again. They
All right,
running
get out of
crosses and
here.
we
Get
can't
out of
stop
here.
that.
Taft did not play
Hey,
bad last year.
So all jokes aside, this is you said something in your video yesterday. If y'all haven't checked out that video that he did, that Nino did on Brooks leaving or whatever, that live stream, go and check that video out again. It was a great video. But you said something that I was like, damn, I didn't expect Nick to say that.
What's up?
You called out your secondary coach. You said,
Oh,
hey,
Terry Joseph?
yeah, you said maybe it's time for us to look at those guys and say you need to do a better job
No,
of coaching.
but that's the thing, right? Look, I've always said this. Manny Muhammad looked very good as a true freshman last year, right? He looked very good. Derek Williams looked really good, especially going into the back half of the season.
Yeah, he did.
Now, if these guys regress in year two, it's not a talent problem. It's a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if that happens, if these guys regress in year two at Texas, first year in the SEC, then you got to start reevaluating those coaches. You got to start looking at Terry Joseph. You got to start looking at a Blake Gideon. And you got to say, it's not the players, because these are players that everybody in the country wanted. Nick Saban stayed on the damn phone with Manny Muhammad for 2 hours prior to him signing today because he wanted him that bad at
Wanted
Alabama.
him bad.
Right. So
I still want him back.
Here's my point with all of that, Nick, is that the fact that I watched Orange Bloods yesterday when this happened. I was talking to my aunt. Then I watched your video and I just thought to myself, I said, this is crazy because you heard a lot of great things about this Brooks kid. Now it's like Texas fans are turning on him and saying, well, he was getting people were just blowing by him. He was getting torched anyways in the secondary and all the rest of this. And when I look at your comment, I have to go back to that because being there at the Red River game, watching you guys so many times last year, especially when teams will get the better of you on the back half. Whenever you can get past that, when you get to that third level, that's whenever it was like, I don't know what Texas really has, because I know if you can't get past Sweat and all the rest of them, you're fine. But my point with this is that I don't know how you guys were getting blown past and all the rest of this stuff. It wasn't like y'all was pressing a whole lot. Y'all would press and then watch the snap count, and then y'all are bagging up 5-10 yards and giving them so much cushion. So it wasn't like y'all
which
were.
is
I
which is
just
the
didn't
weirdest
get it
thing.
with the
Which is the
coaching.
weirdest thing, because last year our cornerbacks, Ryan Watts, Manny Muhammad, these guys are taller guys and bigger guys. Ryan Watts is a guy that, mark it on your calendar, folks. Dan Quinn's going to draft that guy. He's a Dan Quinn cornerback. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a Dan Quinn guy. He's big. He's bulky. He runs pretty fast too for his size, right? But when you have guys like him and Manny Muhammad, why aren't they pressing at the line? Why aren't they jamming receivers at the line? Let them use their length. Let them use their size to read, just to redirect wide receivers, right? We weren't doing that. We had guys off the ball 5 or 6 yards, which I didn't get. So, like I said, if these guys regress in year two, it is time to not look at the player. It's time to look at the coach.
Yeah, and that was my point. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, and I'm glad because you both heard me say it, right? After the Bama Texas game, Bama gets in there, they take the L, right? Sark really attacked Caleb Downs. Second game, beautiful game plan going at the young, very talented safety. I mean, that guy is going to be a top 10 draft pick. Whenever I really wish he would have stayed, but that's neither here
Shit, he
nor
might be a
there.
top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's sensational, right? You got him early,
Yeah,
and I
yeah, you
mean,
see it.
masterclass by
Yeah,
Sark. But Nick, Chris, y'all will remember because Steven made the comment of like, oh, well, we left a lot of meat on the bones, and I was like, you know what, that's fair. But simultaneously, I want the rematch because listen, I'm very blessed right now. I'd love to share the screen if I could. I have a drive filled with, I believe last time I checked, 120 teams.
yeah.
Their full seasons, all 22 film. I'm in a group with a bunch of scouts. So I got that all 22 film fairly quickly after, and I was like, yo, when I look at the all 22, Bama wide receivers are running wild past the secondary, just streaking open, but our offensive line can't contain. Like, they just ate us up. And now, granted, then the problem is you got to stop them from scoring. And like I said, Sark was calling a masterclass. But Chris, you'll even remember, I was like, I'd love to have that rematch once Milroe, who he continues to progress, because I thought that Bama's wide receivers were running open a lot more than people realized. And when you looked at the all 22, it was there. The problem was is we just couldn't we couldn't stop y'all consistently from scoring, and Sark called a masterclass of a game.
He had, and if we can just kind of take a little sidebar, I think Milroe is going to have an amazing year.
Hell
Why?
yeah, he is. He's
He
gonna have
now
a
has
great
Because
season.
quarterback coaches.
Yeah.
not only that, but I think DeBoer runs a college friendly system that has some pro concepts in it, but it's not that complicated. And I don't think it's going to be on him to really make the decisions this year. Because Tommy Reese was kind of like in that area, it was a little bit of a downgrade from Bob. And what I mean by that's a poor way to put it, but I'm just saying that he tried to run like a lot of it's kind of a, don't get me wrong, it's college friendly, but it's a pro style, right? I think this is just really, it's not gimmicky, it's not any of that. It just works. But
Yeah.
you're telling your wide receivers, hey, it's really on you to beat your guy and make us look really good. So I think he's gonna have a hell of a year. But they caught y'all early and benefited from
Oh,
that. That's not the only
they
reason why Texas won, but at the same time, you guys benefited tremendously from two young guys in gosh, the safety, Caleb Downs, and
Downs.
then obviously Milroe's inefficiencies as a
Well,
as
our
a
offensive
outside
line
quarterback.
wasn't
Yeah,
great, and Steven was right whenever he said Texas left meat on the bone. They certainly did. I mean, you go back, the all 22 certainly supports that as well. I always just wanted a rematch because I was like, I think our wide receivers, because Milroe, listen, he's still growing in terms of short to intermediate, but his deep ball accuracy was second highest in the nation behind only Jaden Daniels. And I mean, they were really high ahead. So yeah,
It's,
Kyle
you
says in
know,
the end we both got exposed. My brother, we made playoffs.
I know both made the playoffs. Look here, man. Both teams got better as the seasons went on, especially at the end.
True.
You saw both teams squeak by during the middle of the season. You know, Texas had a couple squeaky games going on. Alabama had a couple squeaky games,
Yeah.
but when it mattered, those last 3 or 4 games, Texas going against Tech and going against, who is it in the Big 12 championship? Okie State. You guys scoring against Georgia. Both teams took both the teams that actually played for the championship to the last play of the game. So both teams got better as the year went on. Both teams, right? So yeah, that would have been a really good, matchup.
I wanted to see the rematch because while I didn't, it wasn't like I was watching the film being like, oh my God, if they rematch Texas, they're going to win. I was like, oh man, I think that
It'd be a
it's going to
good
be
game.
really fun.
Yeah,
Like, I
it'd have been a
think,
good game because I would have loved to have seen how Texas would have matched up with Milroe running the ball. Milroe ran the ball very effectively in that first game, but I think he left meat in the bone running the ball too as well. But you guys' defense didn't play completely bad that game. I just
no,
think,
Sark was in his bag. I mean,
yeah,
masterful.
he was just in his bag that game. But he was drawing it up pretty much all summer, probably. And Saban was drawing up his defenses and everything all summer too as well. So it was a chess match on both ends. And, of course, Texas won by 10 points, but the game was a lot closer than 10 points. There were points taken off the board. Texas had a drop touchdown. It could have swung either way, right? It could have swung. It was closer than 10 points.
I
I say
agree
it
and
like that.
disagree because, like I said, I truly do agree with Steven whenever he was like, "Oh, Texas left meat on the bones."
Mhm.
I think that like the 10 point was pretty much well indicative, man. Like Texas
Yeah,
had a great game plan.
yeah.
Now, Steven, I mean that, but kind of just pivoting back to the spring game. That's what kind of
Yeah.
caused me concern. Like people in here waiting for me to rip to rip Arch Manning. I'm not going to rip him. I mean, he's second string quarterback. But anyways, like I'm saying though, um,
Get out of here. Go ahead.
I think
What
that
you
just
saying,
caused me
Chris?
concern because I'm like, look, y'all still have the same secondary. Y'all still have the same secondary issues, and if you're going to bring in a bunch of guys, you better do that now. I think you guys got talent on the field. You guys have a lot of length, and that's one of the things I like
Which
about.
I think Texas might get a little bit more lengthier in the secondary if things come to fruition like people think it's going to happen. One
Yeah,
thing about Brooks I want to talk about too. I just heard something today that Brooks came in the camp like 12 pounds more than what he was last year. He's like 205 pounds, 207 pounds or something this year, which is, if you want your guy to be leaner and faster, putting on 12 extra pounds is not the key. Right. And I don't think the coaching staff was happy about that either as well. And
yeah,
so, uh, rumor is, it wasn't one of those I'm hitting the portal and we're mad about it, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
and that's great. I mean, that's cool. I mean, there's a lot of things you could say there, but I think at the end of the day, when I listen to you and I listen to some of the other Texas fans that I do respect, I think that kind of spoke volumes to me. That like, hey, what the hell is going on here? Because regardless of all of that, these issues or whatever, at least he's on your bench. At least he's depth. Now you guys got to go and replace him. And I think it is something to say. I mean, look, offensively, I think you guys are going to be just okay. I think Sark is a
I think we're
great
gonna be better
offensive.
this year offensively.
I don't know, man. I'm
Uh,
gonna be honest with you, Ty, please. You're my friend.
Go
You're
ahead, go
one of my
ahead,
best
say it,
friends.
say it, Chris. I
I
think
think
Texas is gonna
Bun
be
is
better this year.
overrated. I think Bun is over. I wasn't a big fan. I get it, but I wasn't a big fan of the pickup. I like Night Black more because I think he's going to be better than Sanders, to be honest with you, because he's going to be more of a pass threat. But I don't know, man.
I don't
If
know,
you guys
Chris.
are going to be depending on Moore to be one of your guys, not really. I don't love that. And then Cook, I've heard kind of
Why
mixed
not?
reviews
You
from.
guys wanted more. I don't want to hear that. You guys
Uh,
got
Well, they got they
different
got
regime,
Wingo and
different
Wingo.
regime,
come on,
different
come on.
regime,
Hey, a
different
different
regime,
regime, but
different regime.
you were just talking about Brendan Thompson maybe doing something for you guys this year. He couldn't make it here. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't make it at
I'm just
Texas.
saying,
and
man.
and
Better opportunity
Wingo
Let's just
now.
be
is
honest.
Better
So
opportunity now. But I'm just telling you, like,
you
look,
guys wanted
y'all,
Jonte Cook
y'all
too.
are replacing a lot this year, and that's what something that I'm just like, look, you can say y'all gonna be better, but replacing
No, we're
Sweat
replacing
Murphy,
and hold on.
Mitchell,
Go ahead.
um, what's the other wide receiver's name?
Who? Mitchell?
No, I said Mitchell.
Worthy?
Yeah, Worthy. Like, hey, you guys look. That's a lot of production that you guys lost. Y'all ain't gonna be able to just make up for that overnight.
I didn't. Well, look here.
I mean,
I don't think Bond is overrated,
I don't think so either.
but I will say I think AD Mitchell's better.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Like I don't think that that's much of a conversation. Like
No.
Bond, I'm hoping to see him develop more in terms of like what he can do because Sark and y'all's wide receiver coach really solid coaches over there.
Yeah.
And while I like Wiggins, there's a crazy stat that Wiggins has like 13 wins as the wide receiver coach at Bama, and almost all of them transferred out. Like the
Yeah.
guy can recruit, but it wasn't clicking, right? And he's got great coaches there. But Bond, I don't think is overrated, man. He's very, very talented, very dangerous.
And especially in Sark's offense, look
Yeah.
here, man. You just need speed and guys who can catch the damn ball. And
He
I
can do
think
that.
and he can do that. Jonte Cook is a guy that I think people are going to understand and know his name by game 4 or 5. He's going to be one of those
I mean, we
guys
know
that
we know his name now, but it's
yeah,
just why are these mixed reviews coming out about him? I mean, but it's spring.
it's
But I
spring.
give him that.
It's the same reason those mixed reviews are coming out about your tackles. At least our guys are catching balls for touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, I mean, you
look,
should on that secondary.
it's still
Yeah.
spring. Like you say, it's still. But at least I'm willing to realize that our secondary needs work. right?
You heard me say that our tackles need work. You heard me say offensive
But
line
I
needs
think
work.
our offense is going to be better this year. I
Yeah,
think just for the simple fact that you have our offensive line, 4 starters are returning from an
mhm,
offensive line that jailed really good last year. We saw even when Jonathan Brooks went down last year, we thought this offense, especially the running game, was going to go to crap.
yeah,
No, sir, it did not. Jaden Blue came in and did his thing. You couple that with CJ Baxter in his second year, healthier, stronger,
mhm.
right? And then you couple that with the 2 guys behind it. Well, the 3 guys, Trey
Bro, we
Wisner, Christian Clark, and Jared Gibson. But I think you got a 3-headed monster right there at the running back position with Jaden Blue, CJ Baxter, and Trey Wisner. What?
I don't believe that. I think it's really just going to be Blue and Baxter. But my question is, are we going to see that whole crazy dynamic? You know what I'm talking about
As far
between
as what?
Baxter and Blue. Like, are we going to actually see a lot of Blue as well? I think Blue should be a
Yes.
starter, to be honest
No.
with
Well, he actually started the spring game.
you.
And
Yeah,
so, yes, I think you're going to see a great dynamic. You saw when Brooks went down last year, Sark used both of them. Sark is usually a guy that likes to stick with one guy running back and 3 wide receivers. When Brooks got hurt last year, he switched it up.
yeah.
He played Blue a lot. He played Baxter. He rotated them, and those guys were fresh. And I think we saw the best out of both of them. Jaden Blue was one of those kind of forgotten guys because he didn't play his senior year of a ball, right? So he was a top back in the country as a junior. Didn't play his last year of high school, so people kind of forgot about him. Texas stuck with him, and we're seeing that he was one of the fastest guys in the team last year, and he's already up to 205 pounds. He's going to be slithering, and he catches the ball really well.
I am ready to see, because I have some questions about him. I definitely want to see a work of his work of art during the for a full season. I want to see,
I
now
think it's
you
going to
know,
be great, especially if they rotate those guys, which I think Sark is going to do.
yeah.
And if they play some 21 personnel, man, with the 2 running backs and 1 tight end, that's going to be dangerous because both those guys can catch the ball. But
So
yeah,
and this is just me now. I'm about to be very critical.
go ahead.
So you're telling me I should believe in all of that, okay? And I get that.
Go ahead.
I should have some questions, have some worries about the
The
secondary.
secondary. Yep.
Talking the interior needs to be shored up a little bit more. I know you guys are working on that. I see you
On the
guys are
D
working
line.
just as hard as we are. Um, but to me, I think the biggest question mark that I haven't heard anything about, and nobody's talking about, what the hell's going on with Mullet Boy down there? What's up with Quinn Ewers or Quintavious or whatever y'all want to call him today?
He'll be
Because
fine.
I don't
His
know.
his deep ball has got to be better this year.
Yeah,
Like you've had AJ Milwee and Steve Sarkeesian for 3 years now.
your deep ball
That's
has to be better.
got to get better. Your footwork has got to be consistent. When his
Which
footwork is consistent, magic. Believe you me, as an
yeah,
Alabama fan, I watched it. That moonshot he threw to, was it Worthy or
that
AB
was the one.
Mitchell?
Hold
One of the
on.
most beautiful passes I've seen in a
That
while. I
was
mean,
to Mitchell when Mitchell had to readjust to the ball and he kind of caught it off his knees.
incredible.
Yeah,
The moonshot pass, but it's just about the consistency. We know it
he's
where Ewers can do. It's just about replicating it, and especially on that deep ball because
and
that'll take it on to the next level.
that's the thing that separates him from a guy like Arch Manning. Arch Manning's footwork, his footwork in the spring game, Ty, was
Oh, that's
stupid.
what I sent in the group chat, and
It was
I was
stupid.
like, his footwork is already
It's
there.
pro. It's
Yeah.
pro.
But that's something that I'm this, me being cynical, I would love to jump on the, are we gonna get the whole, Caleb Klubnik DJU hype, right? Are we gonna get the whole Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence hype, right? But I think I want to steer away from that, at least until we get to, fall camp or whatever, or we get to that first game where Quinn makes some mistakes, right? But the thing is that, is Quinn going to be Quinn from this past year, or is it Quinn gonna take that step and finally be that
I
guy,
think he takes
really
a step.
solidify himself?
You know what?
Because I mean, that would be kind of, I think you guys could potentially be fine elsewhere. Maybe not secondary. I don't believe in that secondary. I'm sorry, but he may be the only thing that would really hold you guys back from you know,
I don't think that he'll hold him back.
I don't
Because
think so either.
Sark's offense this year, if you
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
I think it was like 29%. Now, this is another conversation, right? Because this is the conversation, Nick, you and I have about like a Justin Herbert, right? Which
Yeah.
was so interesting evaluating him under that Mario Cristobal offense because Herbert threw like 33% of his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Quinn threw a substantial amount of his passes near the line of scrimmage, at or behind it. And so, but the reason why I bring that up is because y'all still made it to the playoffs. Y'all were still hyper successful. Sark is going to scheme something up.
Think
It's
about it.
just, it'll make Sark's life a lot easier if Quinn
Takes a step.
starts hitting those deep shots at even an average rate.
Yeah,
Because
but-
wasn't he 9th in the Big 12 in passes over 20 yards?
It was something like that. It wasn't the best.
But you know, what happens when Quinn takes off again and gets his ass popped like he did time and time again in the Red River game, and then he gets injured once again?
Well,
I
guess
mean,
what?
Those are real questions.
I think we
Those
might
are
have
real
the
questions.
well, Chris. Guess what? I think we might have the best backup in the E SEC.
Okay, all right, okay.
Y'all got
I
a
think-
great quarterback.
That's
right
all
now.
I needed to know.
I'm just
That's
saying.
all I needed to know.
No,
That's
Chris,
all I
Chris.
needed to know, Nick.
No,
That's all I
hey,
needed
Chris,
to know.
Chris.
Thank you.
You talked a lot of mess about Arch Manning the last year. Well, actually, the last two. Even like when he was getting recruited. What did you think about his his spring game?
You know how I felt about Arch.
Come on, Chris, talk about it. What do you think about the spring game?
I thought it was to be expected. He should be good. He comes from that lineage. He
No.
should be
You guys said it was a 3-star, and
You guys is a very
No.
large-
You guys is because I really didn't say too much about all that stuff. I asked
Don't lump me
questions
in with
too.
this. I made a
not
whole
Ty.
video.
But
Chris.
if you want to go there, Nick, y'all secondary is shit.
I didn't
I
care
don't know
about
what you want me
secondary.
to tell you. He should be able to do that. He's probably playing against twos
Yeah,
and threes
but
out there.
so if
All
I
right.
may,
Well,
if I may,
it's
well,
if I
Brian
Chris.
may,
Roberts.
Well,
It's
hold on.
good.
Nino,
Hold on,
if I
Chris.
may,
Chris,
if I may.
Chris, your tackles were shit, and your starting quarterback got sacked by the second team defense 4 times within the first 3 drives.
Look, Nick. First off, you want to watch it.
That's the
You wanna watch
truth.
the same game
If-
and I'll
Go ahead,
watch
Ty.
it.
If I may,
Go ahead, Ty.
like even if you have questions about the core or about the secondary, that shot he threw to, was it Blue?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
And the one to Wingo.
The one to Wingo is not, but that
The
was
one
a
to
great pass.
Moore.
So here, no. The Moore is the one that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
The Moore one, great pass. Moore was wide open, right?
Yeah.
So like you should hit that one. But the one to Blue wasn't wide open. He had a safety rotating down. The pocket was collapsing. He stepped up, stepped right, and then boom. Then the one to Isaiah Bond. I couldn't have handed the ball to Isaiah Bond any better than that. So listen, even if you have questions about the secondary, he was putting it in a breadbasket. I mean, that throw to Isaiah Bond was sprinting and he just does this and the ball just falls right over his shoulder. Boom. I mean, that was a beautiful
Nobody
throw.
Nobody around him just throwing routes on air, basically. I get that, but that's my only knock on it. It's just the fact that, like, hey, look, I got to see live bullets going. I got to see live rounds. But if you're telling me that, and you're telling me that I need to believe, and y'all have the best quarterback room in the nation, Quinn doesn't need to start. Because if Ty has these concerns,
I didn't say the best quarterback in the nation. I didn't say the best quarterback in the nation. I said we got the best backup, and I said we got the best backup quarterback in the SEC.
I'm just saying. Okay, all right. We'll go through we'll be here again, just like we was with Malik, because you was a huge fan of Malik, and you thought Malik
I was
going to take
but
that
so are
step.
you guys. I think I have you on
dude.
record saying that you don't want to see him play because you don't think you think he's going to light everybody up. You and Jason from Hall of Fame Sports. And Jason from Hall of Fame said that.
I've seen.
Hold on. I'm gonna call receipts. You talking about what I said about Malik? I'm gonna call receipts. You and Jay from Hall of Fame said you do not want to see Malik come and play because you think he's going to shred y'all up.
That was Jay.
That's what you guys said. I think you were co-signing that. You were like,
good. I didn't say all of that. Now.
That's what you're doing.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't say all of that. I'm just saying.
But
pump the brakes, people.
But
pump
I think our offense is going to be better this year. Just like I told people last year, I thought the offense last year was going to be better than the first year that Sark was there, for the simple fact that, for one thing, our offensive line last year was light years better than what Sark had his first year. And this year, our offensive line, in my opinion, is going to be better than what we've ever fielded. having a guy like Kelvin Banks, he is going to be a first round pick after this year, guys. He's one of the top tackles in
Why
the country.
isn't he a junior
Well,
and draft
are you not
eligible? I'm
worried
so
about some of the
tired
youth
of
that you
seeing
have
him.
out there? Because I
Huh?
mean, you guys are relying on some pretty youthful guys,
What are you
guys who
talking
never
about?
really been there.
Where on the line?
Especially with the whole like. I'm not talking about the line. I'm talking about just like skill positions. Y'all are believing it. Colin Simmons is going to be out there and
No,
be
Colin
that
Simmons is
guy.
going to be. He's going to be a rotational guy.
Uh,
He's not going to be the guy that's going to be counted on the start right away, just like Anthony Hill was last year. Now, as the season goes on, if Colin Simmons proves that he is that guy, game 6, game 7, of course, he's probably going to get more playing time there, but he's not going to start off starting. Like Anthony Hill didn't start off starting. He didn't eventually become the starter until about game 5 or 6 last year. And then we saw him be the guy that he was, and he was a freshman All-American, and he's that guy,
I'm glad I
right?
heard it from you, but I'm just
And
saying, man, it's a
I
lot
gotta
of
say,
production, a lot of different things, but everybody is sitting on your lap, no Diddy. So
well,
I'll go
I've
ahead and
I've
let
been
y'all have
I've been
that.
grinding the all 22, right? And I was just curious about
What's
because
that?
I've always said like I referred to yeah, I know Michigan had like an unbelievable interior duo on their defensive line, but the Texas defensive line they were so solid. But anytime I've watched Texas all 22 film,
Sweat always in
um,
the backfield,
no,
or Byron Murphy.
I'll tell you who stands out. Listen, all respect to those two because they're both freakish.
Yeah,
Anthony Hill stands out the most to me when I'm watching y'all's all 22 in
yeah.
terms of upside. I'm like,
He's
this guy is stupid freaky good. Like
he's good.
he's gonna be great. Yeah.
Look here, man. I want to address this comment here. It says that line is going to get worn out without stud wide receivers. It's usually the opposite way around, my friend. Usually the wide receivers get worn out without a good line. That's why you see a lot of teams where there's NFL or college. If the line's good,
Mhm.
they can put wide receivers in place that can make plays.
Lemon probably thinking about that Red River game when we was all over that ass. We was all
No,
over
and that's the
the
crazy thing. Y'all handled that interior so well. I mean, it was teach tape with how y'all handled those two interior. It was really, really impressive to watch. I actually just went back and rewatched that game 2 nights ago on the all 22, and I was like, man, the Oklahoma offensive line. And that's to kind of full circle it. That's exactly why I might have a question about
Yeah.
like, oh, Oklahoma has to replace all these pieces. Granted, Branson Hickman, huge portal pickup. Huge portal pickup, especially because y'all had Everett get hurt. That guy's
Yeah.
really, really good. Very highly graded, top 5 or top 10.
Yeah.
Graded in terms of, I think he's top 5 in terms of.
But hey, look for Becci, the kid, the transfer that's gonna be our one of our guards from North Texas. Yeah, guy. He's gonna be the truth.
I
Then
hope, but I will say this: I went to
Junior is
UNT
gonna be
and they were
fun. So what?
terrible. I said I went to UNT, and this isn't a comment on him, right? Obviously not,
Yeah.
because I did. But God, when I was at UNT, they were terrible.
Hey, don't worry.
No, it's
he's
years after, years after. They're two unrelated comments. It's just UNT gives me PTSD.
let's move on to the rest of the SEC. I'm tired of talking about this Texas trash.
Hold
I
on,
already know
man.
what that's
Hold on,
gonna
hold
be.
on, hold on. We spent a whole lot of time on your sorry ass team, and I
Look,
made
we
some
just
good
spent a whole
comments.
hour on Texas and OU. Let's keep it going, man.
Hey, Bama. Let's talk about Bama. And
Yeah,
Ty was
man.
at the game. So
No,
Ty,
I
give us a.
wasn't.
Oh, man, Ty, I
Was he
thought
at
you
the
were, man.
game?
I thought you were at the
Nah.
game.
Mm-mm.
Ah, damn, man. But anyways, Jalen
Nah.
Miro looked good, bro.
Yeah, Milrow. So here's the thing: if you look at the stats, you're not going to be super impressed. But he had 6 passes like in a row, bop, 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 that got dropped. And in fairness, 2 of those were bang bang plays where the defensive back was right there, making a great play. And so if you don't want to cause those drops, you want to say those are pass deflect. That's fair. That's fair. But I'm encouraged, man. It's still early. And listen, if you want to talk, because I know y'all are talking, it's funny me listening to both of y'all because I have questions about, you know what? I'll even elevate it. I have concerns about Alabama's tackle position.
I do too.
I have concerns there. I think Proctor, we were playing him at like 365 pounds as a true freshman. That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And if you look, he handled stunts perfectly. Like he handled the more advanced stuff really well, but the speed rush killed him time after time after time. I'm hoping that the shedding of weight will be big for him. Now, one thing, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was like Pro Football Focus. They graded like the top 10 interior offensive linemen in the nation.
Yeah,
Bama's going to have 3 of
that's
the
good.
top 10 interior. Parker Brailsford is the highest graded returning center in all of college football. There goes Apple holding me down. This is a direct attack from Auburn. Then you have Tyler Booker, and then you have Jaden Roberts. I love that, but the tackles, I that's where I have a bit of concern.
Which
And
is so
then,
crazy, man, because Alabama's you're so used to seeing Bama having 2 tackles always in the
well,
first and second round every
you know
year.
what's crazy? And they have, but over the past 3 years, Alabama has averaged the 99th offensive line in the nation in terms of sacks allowed. So they have not had a good offensive line since 2020. Like they
Since
are
Scott Flood.
overachieving since
Yeah,
Kyle Flood. And well, then they hired Doug Marrone, and that
yeah,
was a disaster.
yeah.
And Wolford turned it around year one, and then this past year it really went bad. But that's because we had a center that kept snapping the ball at Jalen Milroe's feet. I mean, you look at the final game of the overtime for Alabama, the last play,
Was a ball at the feet.
he snaps it at Jalen Milroe's feet, and it's like and then Ryan Day has the gall to say, "Oh,
They
it's
go get him.
quarterback cadence." No, no. Did you hear what he said? He's like, "Oh, well, we haven't seen any snap issues. It's quarterback cadence." And I'm like, it doesn't matter who's back there. You got to get the ball from point A to point B. What does quarterback cadence have to do with snapping a damn ball? You could put a net back there. The ball has to get to the net. It doesn't matter. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Neither here nor there. The other area, I'm not concerned, but I have questions. Bama's very young in the secondary, very talented, right? You're looking, Malachi Moore is going to be one safety, and I think he's going to really excel at that position.
Yeah,
Then you
Moore's
have
good.
Keon Sabb at the other safety. He was only 3 points behind a Caleb Downs, and really excited to see what he's able to do. But gentlemen, outside of that, I mean, you're looking at some really young players, and you granted Nick Saban's parting gift, as I've dubbed it, to Alabama was 3 5-star cornerbacks: Zabian Brown, Zay Mincy, and Jalen Mbakwe. And Jalen Mbakwe is very talented. Zay Mincy, so they're going to be playing. Luckily, we get Damani Jackson out of USC,
Oh yeah,
where
Damani Jackson. I
they
forgot
were
you guys
doing
got
him a
him.
disservice at USC with
good.
the coaching.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, he was getting coached up by terrible defensive back coaches, right? Like, let's call it what it is. He looked really good in the
Been
spring
there.
game.
We've been there.
Yeah,
We've
you
been
know
there.
what that is, right? You know exactly what that is, Chris. So, but guys, remember, he was the number 5 player in the nation. He ran a
He can ball,
10.25
man.
in high school. That kid can fly. So Damani's the only cornerback right now you look at and you're like, okay, you have experience. The other is you have 3 5-stars that just came in, but they're freshmen.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the secondary. In terms of linebacker, I think Bama's really solid at linebacker right now. I think they're going to have a top 10 duo in Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson. They both return. Lemon says, no, I love the new staff, Lemon. I think Kalen DeBoer was a great hire. He has overachieved everywhere he's been. If you look, he's 7-0 against Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, and Lincoln Riley. And yeah, he's had some great pieces, but I would argue the other coaches have had, maybe not USC, but like Dan Lanning at Oregon had more talent just around the field than did Washington.
I think
Michael Penix,
this is the most talent that Calen's going to have pretty much his
ever.
entire career.
And
ever.
he's like 104. He's 123 and like 14 in terms of overall. So really excited about this new staff. Though you are right, I was stressed out. So yeah, linebacker is exciting. There's a player I told you both about a long time ago. Came from Germany, right? Came from Germany. Justin Okoronkwo. Nino, you're going to like this. We ran a play. It was a jet. I know OU fans are going to get PTSD. The play is not bad, ladies and gentlemen. It was the usage of it. A jet sweep is not a bad play when it's called correctly, right? It's not a bad play. But they put Kendrick Law on a jet sweep, and Nino, you can attest to this. That kid's freaky athletic.
Lost my hometown, Shreveport, baby.
Freaky athletic. Justin Okoronkwo hawked him down at 225 pounds. He runs like a 4.45 40
Oh, yeah,
from
yeah,
Germany. For number 41. Nick Saban said last year if he would have played in the United States, that was his first game in the United States, but Saban went on record being like he'd be a 5-star if he was
Easy.
over here. But he's green. He's going to need time. Defensive line, I really like what we have. LT Overton was a big-time addition. A&M played him out of position. Remember, they had him shed like 20, 30 pounds, and they put him at edge. He's more of a defensive end, defensive tackle. Alabama's going to deploy him at the Bandit, which is the new 4-2-5 Kane Womack speed or swarm defense. And it's interesting because Dave Womack and Gary Patterson, along with Nick Saban, are like fundamental in terms of some of the principles. Even though Nick Saban wasn't a nickel guy historically, they were fundamental in some of these principles that we all utilize now in 4-2-5 nickel defenses. And Kane Womack is Dave Womack's son. So really excited about him. We'll see how that looks. Excited about the defensive front, but yeah, it's a transition year. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's questions. I'm excited about the answers, but I think that the Alabama offense, if they can get the offensive line right, you have got elite running backs. You have 2 former 5-stars in Justice Haynes, Richard Young, plus Jam Miller. I don't need to tell you, Nick, about how talented Jam Miller is.
I love Jam Miller. I love some Jam Miller. East Texas beast, man.
Yes, sir.
Ty, I was gonna say, can just take a deep breath, right? Just take a deep breath, man. Just trust me on this. Just take a deep breath. Go ahead. Do it for the people. Do it.
Come on, Chris. What you doing, man? He was just about to break it down, man.
Do it, Ty. Come on, man.
Okay, what's up?
Take a deep breath, man. Because what I want you to do is just soak up that fresh offense that's coming. That fresh, just a bunch of fresh air coming up, bunch of fresh life coming to that offense. No longer do you have to sit there and say, well, this quarterback is just so dang smart because everything is on him. He has to make every call. The offensive coordinator doesn't do this. And then you get Tommy Rees is so multiple, but it's just like during the game, he doesn't know what he wants to focus on, right? So, man, I think it just helps you guys. And I think one of the things that helps you guys on offense a lot as well, I like Miller as a running back, man. I don't think that he's like the Bama standard, but I just something about him.
I think he's
Chris,
good,
have you seen this kid?
I've seen the kid.
No.
I just, I guess it's Tommy
He's
Rees.
that guy.
It's probably Tommy Rees. It was probably the way Tommy Rees used him.
Well,
Jam Miller's that guy.
So here's the crazy thing. Tommy Rees was 32 years old, right? Like he was still learning how to be an offensive coordinator. And then the part that I think really derailed him is that he didn't get to bring in his offense from Notre Dame. Because Nick Saban kept losing offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator, that Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian formulated an offense for Alabama that was like, okay, you might not have like the deepest identity, but what you can do is be super multiple in terms of like whatever your personnels are, you can flow and you can find fluidity. But Tommy Rees is still learning how to be an offensive coordinator, and now you're saying, okay, while you're still learning that, now you got to abandon your offense, and now you have to learn the Alabama offense. On top of that, you've never worked with a quarterback like Jalen Milroe before. We don't have that issue anymore. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guru, right? Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guru. Coach Shepard. Guys, I'm super excited for Coach Shepard, the wide receiver coach, really talented. And then a super under the radar hire Alabama made is Brian Ellis. He's the tight end coach there now. He was at Western Kentucky when Bailey Zappi was there, and they broke all those records. He was their offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, and also quarterback coach. So you've got a lot of offensive pieces to really help Jalen Milroe. But you're right, Chris. I think that the Alabama offense, it's all on the offensive line, man. I know Frightening's asking me for a game total in terms of wins. Listen, I think Alabama's going to still be dangerous, right? Like, real dangerous. You've got a coach that has overachieved everywhere he's been. You have Jalen Milroe, who is the highest returning quarterback in terms of Heisman votes, and now he finally has a quarterback coach, which Alabama has not had since Sark and A.J. Milwee were here, not at least a quarterback coach that you believe in. And when I look at the wide receivers, Jeremy Bernard is going to be really, really good. He was someone Washington thought would be wide receiver 1 this past year, or this next year. Mm-hmm. Super sad Jalen Hale sustained that injury because he was in for a big year.
Hold on, he got hurt?
He got hurt. He got a pretty serious injury. Yeah.
Oh, man. I hate it for him because, man, Hale's a baller, man.
He was in for a big year. Now, the only thing
big kid, too, man.
Yeah,
Fast
but
kid, big
here's the
kid.
thing. Bama got the number one tight end in the nation, depending on where you looked, right? Last season on in recruiting, Caleb Odom, 6'5", 215 pounds, runs a 4 something, like a 4.5 flat, and this was in high school.
Yeah,
They've transitioned him to wide receiver, and it's already a really deep wide receiver room, and he's out there making plays.
that's good.
So he's going to be tough to guard. But yeah, I think Alabama, in terms of do they beat OU? I don't know. So here's the thing, frightening. I don't know what everything's going to look like because Alabama's still getting guys back healthy. They're still getting guys from the portal. Our spring game wasn't the greatest measuring stick because we only had 10 offensive linemen active. And then Jaheim Otis wasn't to go. Jahad Campbell wasn't to go.
I like
So
Otis. I
I
like Otis a
love
lot.
Otis, and Tim Keenan really took a step up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that leads with the loss of Saban.
Hey, Ty,
What's up?
this question right here. I gotta answer this, man. From Stubby. He said Milrow reminds him so much of Vince Young. When Milrow came out of high school, okay, Vince was a different animal coming out of high school. He was one of the top rated guys coming out of high school ever, right? But I always said Milrow had something special about him. He was special, right? He was just a special kid. Um, his season this past year reminds me so much of Vince's third year. Is scary. It's Texas won a couple games because of Vince's third year, right? But the team carried on. They went on to only lose one game for the season, right? And then they go to the Rose Bowl and they beat Michigan that year, right? Milrow doesn't have the best season to actually start off, and is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Do you need to move him to wide receiver, or do you move him to running back? Could he be more special in like in the backfield and not throwing the ball? He overcomes all those obstacles. He becomes one of the best quarterbacks in the nation by like what, week 12, week 13. You have the Auburn miracle. Everything goes good. Man, I think this year, Milrow is going to be hell on wheels. And him and Kalen is going to be a marriage made in heaven. And that Alabama offense is going to be freaky good. Kalen hasn't had a guy that can run the ball like Milrow.
Nope. And he said something to him. I don't know if you caught this, Nino, and it's something that I think you're really going to love. He talked to Milrow at one point, and he also said it through the. He said, "Bro, but frightening. You know me, man. I'm very like objective, and like I like collecting data and stuff, right? Like I'm not necessarily a hot take person. Of course, me being a Bama fan, like of course, I'm gonna always ride with my squad, but you know me. I'm always gonna try and be as objective as possible because I like covering college football as a whole, right? Yeah. But here's what DeBoer said that I know you're gonna love. He was talking to the media and he was like, I talked to Jalen and he said, I appreciate how much you're working at becoming the best quarterback you can be. He said, but I told Jalen, don't forget that you have an ability that almost nobody else has, an ability that you need to utilize and don't shy away from it. Your legs.
Hey, let me tell you a story, right? So I'm talking to Hayden Connor's dad, right? So Hayden Connor is Texas starting left guard, right? And we were at the Bama game, and it's Bama game or the OU game, but anyways, he was saying, "Hey, look, Milrow is a great kid, wonderful kid," and I remember coaching him, back in middle school. And we were losing the game by 20 or 30 points or something like that, right? And the head coach was just trying to make him pass the ball and just pass. He said, let that boy do what he does. He can run the ball. Let him run the freaking ball and let him pass out of running. They came back from 20 points down and won the game, right? And so, yes, if Kalen is telling him that yes, you're going to be a great quarterback, but you're special. And your most special asset is your strength in your legs and your running ability. Go do you. You know what I'm saying? If he's telling him that, it's going to be scary, dude. It's going to be scary.
And as much as I like because you have Kobe Prentice, you have Kendrick Law, you have Caleb Odom, you have Jeremy Bernard. And Jeremy Bernard, I don't know if y'all saw it, he looked good in the spring game. Real good. Ryan Williams is not on campus yet, ladies and gentlemen. And that dude right there
I forgot about Ryan Williams.
Reclassified and was the number 2 wide receiver in the nation as a junior. Ran a 10.4 as a sophomore. Oh, I'm so excited for Ryan
Todd,
Warren.
this might be the year in the SEC where you see some freshman wide receivers come out and kick some ass this year.
I'm so excited for
Dude,
Ryan
Williams is going to
Warren.
be a monster once he gets on that field. You saw what Wingo did at Texas in the
Oh,
spring
he's
game.
incredible. Wingo is incredible. I don't know if you saw the tweet I put out, and I was like, SEC fans, you need to know this kid's name
Yeah, yeah,
because he's going to be a thorn in your side for years to come. Is Wingo?
yeah. And then of course you got your boys from OU. They always got some talent there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they always have wide receivers.
Every year. And so it's gonna be dude, I can't wait
That
for this
house
year.
over there.
I do want to address one comment though because it's interesting. Brian's he says, "What happened to defense with championships though? Outside of UGA, all I am seeing is a lot of move toward offense, and there's a lot of coaching and staff changes across the board in the SEC. Down year, I don't know about down year, but here's what I can say: the defense wins championships is still true. If we look since 2000 to now, there's only been 3 defenses rank outside the top 25 in scoring defenses win the national championship, with the major outlier being 2013 Auburn. Ironically, defensive coordinator was Ted Roof, and they were 46th in the nation. So even then, it wasn't like they were an awful defense, right? Like they were still a pretty darn good defense. It's just the other 2 teams that have won it was the Ohio State team, which came in at 32. And then you had LSU, which came in at 35. So you don't have to be the number 1 defense in the nation,
But you
but
gotta
you
be good.
cannot forego defense. Like you still have got to have a really, really good defense. What we're finding is balance. And Michigan was number 1. They were great, yeah.
So, and if we may, Ty, I don't want to rush you, but are you done? Because I want
Go
to hit
ahead,
a
go
couple
ahead.
other things.
Yeah, there's just a lot of
So,
unknown for Bama, so it's not much for me to go into. Go ahead.
so first off, before we get to Georgia, should we talk about the Florida spring game or
Lagway looked good.
Lagway look good? I think Graham Mertz statistically is a good quarterback. I
He's
think
better than I
that
gave him credit for.
He's a
their
lot better than I gave him. I thought it's gonna be like total ass last year, but
year
he's pretty
three
good.
year 3 in this system because and this one thing that I am happy about, even though I still know that my head ball coach gets a lot of flack for no reason, for no reason at all. Granted, you see all the mistakes and all the bonehead decisions that Cristobal makes down there and
Oh my God.
Napier.
You
That
remember, Chris,
nobody
I
talks
said,
about them.
well,
Nobody talks about
hold
them.
on. Give me a little bit of credit here because I've said to you and on this show, on my show, multiple that nobody deserves to be. Mario Cristobal needs to send Brent Venables an edible arrangement basket because for this heat, for being a brand new head coach, brand new. Meanwhile, Mario Cristobal is losing to 4-letter acronym teams, not kneeling the damn ball, and nobody's saying anything. And I completely agree with you there, Chris.
No,
Like
I'm
he
just
needs a gift basket sent
I'm
his
just
way.
saying. I left. Watching the Florida game, I left. Just I don't really know what changed. I don't.
Nothing.
Yeah. When I look at Florida, when I look at Georgia, I guess we can move to them. But when I go to Georgia, the first thing I think is like, damn, okay, because Rashada is going to go over there. I think that's kind of been signed, sealed, and delivered for a long time.
That's interesting, dude.
I don't think it messes with Beck,
No,
but
it doesn't. No.
yeah, because I Kirby Kurt. Hell, we've seen this before. Jake Fromm, Justin Fields. We already know what he's going to
Kirby's
do.
stubborn.
Yeah, he's very stubborn.
But Beck's a good quarterback, though. Let's not
Are
hate.
we?
He's a good quarterback.
So this is my question about Georgia, and I think I saw a little bit of it in the spring game. I didn't watch too much of their spring game, but are we going to see them shift more? And I know you guys say they have talented tight ends, but are we going to see them shift more of the focus offensively to their wide receivers this year without Brock Bowers?
No.
Or what
I
happens?
don't know,
No.
man.
Obviously,
No.
I'm
No,
talking
because
about
it's
the
still a
passing
boat.
league.
It's still that offense is still. Oh my God, is it Bobo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobo.
Yeah, it's still going to be the same. And it's a tough offense to stop. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, anybody listening, I'm not sitting here telling you, "Oh my God, it's some killer offense that you're just sweating playing." What I mean it's tough to stop is that they're very methodical in what they do, right? Like they're very principled in being like, "Okay, we have this option, we have this option, we have this option." It's a little bit boring's a strong word, but I think y'all know what I mean when I say boring, right? It's almost like a factory. Like it's just like if it's not here, it's very methodical. Whereas like Sark is super explosive. I'm interested in seeing what Latrell is doing, but he's very explosive. DeBoer is very explosive. Theirs is almost like a factory where it's just like everything just keeps on moving. It's not the most scary offense, but like
But look, people
it's good.
don't you just because Brock Bowers is gone, please don't sleep on Oscar Delp.
Oh, he's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, he might not be Brock, but Oscar Delp is one of those guys who next year you might be talking as the best tight end in college football next year. He's that damn good, y'all. He's
Yeah.
really good. To be honest with you, I think the Georgia offense opened up a lot more when Brock was out because they
had
didn't have
to.
to.
They had
Yeah.
to.
No, but
They had
but
to.
that's what I'm getting at. Is that it's Oscar Delp's gonna get a lot of touches this year.
Yeah.
It's gonna get a lot of touches this year, but that offense might be more deadly this year because you don't have nobody just a single point on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
That's a fair
Like,
point.
it's gonna be interesting.
And here's and the reason why I mentioned the wide receivers is simply because they have so much damn speed out there
All the time.
all
It's
the
just,
time.
dudes, man. Kirby is loading
But
up.
it's on Beck to really take them to another level. And Ty, I am not sure. Now, last year this time, what did I tell you, Ty? And nobody ever came back to this point. But what did I tell you, Ty? Whenever y'all beat them in the SEC championship, I told you. I said, hands down, y'all have the better roster. Y'all have the better roster. Y'all have the better coaching, and I think it's going to show this year. Y'all were the best team in the SEC, in my opinion, last year. Outside of the Texas game, by far best team in the SEC, and it showed during that game. Right now, though, not necessarily comfortable enough to really make that prediction because
Completely fair.
I think y'all are even right now. I think you and Georgia are even, and rightfully so. Y'all should be the cream of the crop going to the SEC. That was a hell of a game that was played last year, but I'm not comfortable enough to say that yet. Still want to see some things get ironed out on your side.
Completely fair.
Defensively, y'all are replacing some guys, but I mean, y'all not. We could say
No,
replace.
we
Y'all
got
just reloading.
yeah, but like we got to replace some dudes, right? No
Yeah.
doubt about it. Like luckily we get Sab, and I'm not saying that replaces Caleb Downs, but it certainly softens the blow because he's got
Softens it a
real
little
high
bit,
upside.
but
Yeah, so we'll see.
my only
Well,
thing
go ahead.
with
No, go ahead, bro.
Georgia is Georgia's play calling towards the end of the season was so suspect. It was just some of the play calls they were doing is like, what the hell are you doing, man? You know what I'm saying? You have all this talent. Even in the SC championship game, I'm thinking when they were backed up, right, Todd? And I'm like, what the hell, y'all? What's a sweep doing here? I mean, like, come on, what are you doing? Like, why is a lad out there? He can barely walk. Put somebody, you know what I'm saying? It was it was like, what are you doing out there? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes coaches get kind of too stubborn for their own good, and I was glad that Bama just took that game away from them, to be honest with you.
And that's a game that I felt like how Steven felt
yeah.
about after Bama. He's like, man, we left meat on the bone. I've gone back and
Yeah.
watched that so many times, and I'm like, yo, we could have.
Well, shit. Like you guys had, didn't you have like somebody streaking up the sideline? And I think
Multiple
Miro
times.
just missed them. Golly, I think it was a wheel route.
Yep.
Golly, was
And
it
they
jam?
dropped. Well, not only that, they dropped. Not like, oh, you should have had it. I mean, the ball hit
Like
them
in your
the
hands, yeah.
5 interceptions.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. So that game
should
could
have
have
been a
went.
rout.
That game could have went out of play real quick. But yeah, man, I think Georgia's still gonna be Georgia. What's their schedule look like first off before I
gonna
start
be
making
good.
something? Let me see what Georgia's schedule's gonna look like. I don't think their schedule's that tough either this coming up year. Oh, hold on. They got Clemson, first game.
Mm-hmm.
Third game's Kentucky. Shit, fourth game's Alabama.
I think they got some bombs that 7th game.
Yeah,
Who you talking about?
Bama draws
Come on
Georgia
now.
real quick. And I'm excited about that. Y'all know how I feel about getting those
Hey,
big
Oh,
games.
hey,
I
man.
love it.
Georgia got a schedule this year.
they
You got a
they
pretty
got
decent
some
schedule,
bums on
man.
they got some bums on that. I think that 7th game of the season. That's what I want to say.
Whatever, man. They
They
come
got
to
a
Dick.
schedule this year, man.
Hey, yo, yeah, you're right. They got Clemson. They got Kentucky. That's in game 3. You got Alabama in
Nick,
game
Nick,
4.
Nick,
You got
Nick, Nick.
Auburn. Hold on, man. Mississippi
You
State.
said
Those are gonna be it.
Kentucky. Shut up, man. Come on, man. Stop playing. Every year we
I'm
believe that
I'm
hype.
just
We set
saying. I'm
ourselves
just
up.
saying. Game 3, Kentucky, where Kentucky's not beat up because they don't have the depth that everybody else has in the SEC,
And they
can be a
can't
very
overlook Kentucky because they have Bama next week in Bryant Denny.
it can be a very interesting game with Kentucky being at full strength. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be a very interesting game. But you got that. Then so after Bama, you got Auburn, which is in Georgia. Then you got Mississippi State. They should beat those two teams.
Yeah.
Then you got Texas going to Texas. Then you got off week. Then going to Florida, and then you got Ole Miss at Ole Miss. Then you got
That
Tennessee at
Florida's a neutral
home.
site.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Yeah, and then so you got Ole Miss at Oxford, then you got Tennessee back at Athens, and then you
Thank
got
God.
UMass and then Georgia Tech. So, hey, Clemson is the first game of the season. It's not going to be easy. Having Kentucky, it's a third game, and fourth game Bama, and then 7th-game Texas, then Ole Miss as the 9th game, 10th game Tennessee. They got a pretty decent schedule, man. It's the first time in a while that they've had a pretty
Yep.
decent schedule.
It's the toughest schedule they've had in a minute.
Yep.
I'll tell you a team to, and they're on our schedule, but to kind of look out for. I would say Missouri. Missouri has a chance to be better than what they were last year, but they also have a chance to be Tennessee of this past season, which
I
is
think they're going to be the last.
you're a
It's going to be the
lightning
latter.
bottle. Yeah,
Look here, man.
you're a lightning bottle team simply because watching their spring game, still explosive offensively. I think Theo Weiss is a great. He's paired greatly with Burton up there, but the problem is, man, I don't like their offensive line at all, man. I saw if that was a real game, I think Cook would have been on a stretcher going out because he was getting touched an awful lot. But then again, it looked like they put him with hell. It almost looked like they put him with the twos. I don't know if that was the ones or not.
Yeah.
But the offensively, man, they got some guys. Defensively, it still looks like they're trying to figure some things out. So I mean, it's early in spring, so we'll see there. But they didn't show me anything. And I'm just like, oh my god, like Tennessee's going to take. I mean, Missouri's going to take over the world. They have all the. If you're betting on them, it's a high risk, high reward because they have
Exactly.
all the spellings of being a lightning in the bottle team.
Exactly. So who's going to be the starting running back now that Schrader's gone? Because that's going to be hard to replace 1,800 yards rushing.
Throw the bag at Dylan Edwards.
For real.
No, you know what though, Ty? You remember, like group text, we were talking about Dylan Edwards, and I said, look, he's 170 pounds. I don't know if he fits the Colorado system because they don't have an offensive line, right?
Yeah, very fair.
But you're right though. If he goes to Missouri's pretty stout in the line. They play an offense that's wide open. He's going to get a lot of good damn receptions, man, because those wide receivers are going to stretch people across the field like crazy.
And he can just doop.
He can just, oh my God. Now that might be something.
That'd be sick.
That might be something. Oh yeah, I like that idea, to be honest with you. I didn't even think about Missouri for him.
That'd be sick,
awesome.
yeah.
I like K-State an awful lot.
Oh, I do too.
I do too.
I like K-State would make all the sense in the world. Kleiman is a great coach.
He's a good coach, but oh man, with Texas and OU leaving the Big 12, man, like it's going to be a fun league.
It'd be funny if he goes to Utah. Just for the simple fact of like Utah, and I don't mean like it'd be the greatest fit. I just mean it'd be funny because if you're asking me what team is poised to take over the Big 12,
it's Utah.
I like Utah, and it's just funny because they come in the same year as Colorado, and so it'd kind of just be like the thorn in the side.
Dude, I love.
But I don't think it's the bet. I don't think it's the best fit.
No, but look, I like that Missouri pick. That's a nice pick. That's a nice pick. He's just so undersized, man. What do you see? 165 pounds, 170 pounds. They were at 5'9", 170 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was what it was. All right, Rama Lemon goes, good to see you guys. Always fun. Oh, yeah, you going to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Rama Lemon must be old.
I'm old.
Hey man, but no, I mean, there was some decent spring games that were played, man, across the country. And those were some that I definitely watched, definitely highlighted. I think going back to the Florida piece,
Yeah.
they just don't wow me. They don't awe me. They don't give me like, oh my gosh, I got a lot of belief in this team. To me, I think at best they could be like a 7, and then they have a tough.
Brother, if they make a bowl game, they need to build a statue of Billy Napier outside that stadium.
And call his son Bet Billy.
Hey,
'Cause
I forgot about that because I was just gonna say they didn't really do anything that wows me, but I feel like they're gonna be a hard out for some teams. I feel like they're gonna cause trouble to the point where you may have to separate from them in the second half. That's I just don't know, man.
Yeah. But fellas, man, look, it's been about an hour and 40 minutes. And I'm tired. And the playoffs on too, man. The playoffs on. I just saw that the Heat beat the Celtics, man.
They
tied the
did?
series up. Yeah,
What
man.
the
My dad just
hell,
texted me.
man?
He's like, hey, man,
I
the Heat
can't
just beat the
fool with the
Celtics.
Celtics.
What's
man.
up with the Celtics?
I got to go watch this Pelicans game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go watch that too, bro. But hey, man, hey, everybody, like, comment, subscribe, man. Next week, same time, same bat channel. We're gonna be talking about something else, man. Probably some transfer portal stuff. But hey, man, like, comment, subscribe, and go follow everybody's channel that's on here. We out. Deuces and horns always up.